Today we'll be continuing the superelevation part, but with some new terminologies. Before that, just again to quickly summarize what we had covered in the last lecture. So we started with the concept of superelevation, in which we saw it is nothing but raising of your outer rail over the inner rail so that your railway it can traverse the horizontal curve smoothly without any discomfort to your passengers or without any derailment. So we had the objectives for providing the superelevation. The main objective was whatever is the centrifugal force which is trying to throw your overturn your railway away from the curve. Providing a superelevation will introduce a centripetal force which will balance out the centrifugal force. Okay, so that outward force will be balanced by an inward force, and then your railway will smoothly take a turn. So this is the sketch that we had seen, and then we had seen a small derivation for your superelevation, and in that mainly we had seen we need to resolve the forces which cause the horizontal sway or which will cause the overturning. So those are W sine alpha and F cos alpha, and resolving them and equalizing them, we get to know that what is the E value that we have to provide. So we found it in terms of meters as well as in centimeters. So E is equal to GV square upon 127. R is the formula for superelevation, in which E we find out in meter, G is the gauge of your track section in meter, V is the speed of your train in kmph, and R is the radius of your curve in meter. Now coming to today's lecture, now we'll be introducing a few more terms related to superelevation. Just to give you a heads up, it might be a bit confusing or difficult to understand at first, but try to understand the terms. Each term has a different meaning, and that's why today I'll not be covering a huge portion. I'll be just covering four terms. So the first term that we have is equilibrium Cant. Okay, now this term is or would be new to some of you. Equilibrium Cant or just Cant. So in the previous formula, this formula, what we have seen, this E value that we find out. So this E value, it is a linear measure. Linear measure as in it is a length. Okay, we find out the how much the outer rail is raised over the inner rail. So it's a linear measure. And along with that, we had seen that there is a term called this alpha as well. So this alpha is nothing but the tilt that we provide in your sleepers or the ballast layer, so that that tilt will be there in your rails as well. So if I draw the alpha here, this will be the alpha value. So this is nothing but the angular measure of the superelevation. Superelevation E is the linear measure or the distance or the length parameter, and if you convert it to angular one, so this is that angular one. Okay. So that angular superelevation, it is termed as theta, and that is called Cant. Okay. So basically Cant is nothing but superelevation itself. The only difference is this Cant is a angle and it is not a length. Okay, so that is the only difference. So the starting one to keep in mind, Cant is nothing but the angular measure of a superelevation. Okay, so superelevation expressed in terms of angle of transverse slope, that is theta, and that is nothing but Cant. Okay, then there is something called equilibrium Cant. Now if we just think of this term individually, or this word equilibrium, we use this term when we have found a balance in your system. Okay, that's what we say, that your system is in equilibrium, or if it is in balance, so we call it that the system is in equilibrium. So equilibrium Cant, it is nothing but when the lateral forces on both the rails, they are equal. Okay, lateral forces and wheel loads are almost equal. The Cant is said to be equilibrium Cant, and this is important. It is provided based on average speed, but not always average speed. We'll be looking into that in a short while. So for now, just understand that whatever are the rails that you have, okay, these are the rails, okay, and this is the slipper. So in case of curves also, there is, in case of curves, this might be the good one to show that you have a tilted bit of a tilt. And in case of curve, whatever will be the load that will come on your rails, okay, the vertical load as well as the lateral forces coming into picture. So these forces will be almost equal on both the rails. So if it is almost equal, I'm using the term almost equal because it's not exactly equal, because it's a dynamic nature. The loads vary from train to train and from moment to moment. So it's almost equal. So we called it that the super relation that we have provided, that is an equilibrium Cant. Now just keep in mind this, that it is provided based on average speed. Now speed of a train, it plays a very vital role in your uh, Cant or superrelation. So what we have seen, this formula E is equal to GV square. If I just find out the correlation between your superrelation and the speed of the train, so superrelation is directly proportional to square of your speed. So if we just consider that if you increase the speed by some small amount as well, by as small as 10 kmph or 20 kmph, the square will increase the uh, proportionality, and then that will result in a much larger superrelation. So for example, consider a train which is moving at a speed of 100 kmph. So from this formula, if we directly straightforward calculate, if we keep the radius of the curve constant, that it is a curve of suppose 200 meter. So if you are having calci or so with you, can just input the values that your radius is 200 meter and your gauge is suppose for simplicity purpose we'll take 1 meter. It's a meter gauge. Okay. And then for 100 kmph you will be having some E value. Okay. So you can find out that E value. I have not calculated it. I will leave it to you. So this is the E value for speed 100 kmph, and there is another train which is moving with a speed of 40 kmph. So for that, if you calculate the E value, that will be different. So I have just coded the values here as E100 and E40. So E is nothing but the superrelation, and 100 is corresponding to the speed of 100 kmph. Okay. Now what I told you, the curve is same, that you have a same curve of 200 meter. Okay. On the same curve, you have train number 1. This is train number 1, which is moving at 100 kmph. So if I have to make sure that this train moves without any discomfort to the passengers, or without overturning or without derailment, so I have to provide a superrelation of this much value, E100. And on the same track, after some time, suppose after 1 hour, there will be another train which is going to pass, but that train is going to be of speed 40 kmph. So that is, it will need a superrelation of E40 values so that it will not derail. If you have calculated the values, just type it in the chat box so that it will be more clear to explain you. If any one of you have calculated the values of E100 and E40. If anyone has calculated the values. Okay, just write for which speed it is. Arzu, you have written 0.3937, so it is for which speed? Okay, for 100 you have 0937. I'll just note down the values. So for 100 kmph is 0.3937 meter, and for 40, have we calculated? Anyone? 40 for 40 kmph is 0.062 meter. Very well. And you can calculate for one more value, that is 60 kmph, 60. For 60 kmph, 60 kmph, keeping all the other terms same. R is 200 and gauge is 1 meter. So for 60 kmph, 60 kilometer per hour, what is the value? Anyone can give the answer. 60 kmph के लिए क्या value होगी? For okay, 60 kmph, 0.1417 meter. Okay, now we have this values. I'll go back to the presentation here. Okay. So for this E100, it comes out to be 0.3937 meter. So for understanding purpose, I'll write it in centimeters so that you can just visualize it. So 39.37 centimeter, almost you can say 40 centimeter. Okay. But for now, we'll be keeping it as it is. We'll not round it up. E40, it will be 0.062 meter. That will come out to be 6 centimeter. So 6.2 centimeter. And for 60 kmph, this E60, it will be 0.1417 meter. So 14.17 centimeter. Okay. Now comes the decision part that as a railway engineer you have to make, that you have three trains. All the three trains will be moving on the same curve, and that curve is having a radius of 200 meter, and the gauge is of 1 meter. So gauge is of 1 meter. Now for the high speed train, if you see, as we have seen that your superelevation value, it is directly proportional to square of your speed. So for high speed, obviously you will be requiring more superelevation. So we can see here it's almost 39 centimeter. But for low speed, so for your track, maybe this is the lowest speed that you have. So for that you require just 6.2 centimeter. So if you see the difference, you have a vast difference of almost 30 centimeter. 30 centimeter is a huge difference. It's you can say 1 foot. Okay, 30 centimeter. So that much is the difference. And for 60 kmph, it's, if we almost take the median value or so, so it's for 60 kmph 14.17 centimeter. So the problem you must have now realized that what happens is, train with 100 kmph, if I give super elevation of 14 centimeter, okay, that is the super elevation that I'm providing. So when a train of 100 kmph passes over this track, which has a super elevation of 14 centimeter, so that train actually requires a super elevation of 39 centimeter, but we are providing less. So what can happen is that train can overturn on this section. Similarly, if a train of 40 kmph is passing on this section, on which we are provided a super elevation of 14.17 centimeter, so actually required super elevation is less. Okay, that means the tilt that is required for that section, for this railway to pass smoothly, it is less, but you are more providing more tilt, more super elevation, that is you are tilting the rails to a greater extent. So in that case, your train which is moving with less speed, it can derail on that section. So now here we have to make a decision that actually what super elevation value should be provided, so that fast moving trains, they should not overturn, and slow moving trains, they should not derail. Okay, so that's what I have written here, that faster trains, they need to travel without any danger of overturning or discomfort to passengers. And slow train, they should pass so that there is no derailment due to excessive superillusion. So now how to uh, find a solution to this? The solution to this is something called equilibrium speed or average speed. Okay. So in Indian Railways, what they have done is they have came up with these values that suppose if it is a broad gauge or a meter gauge, again, let's consider an example of Shivaji Nagar to Akurdi. So in this section, suppose you have a lot of trains. Now this is the most of you must have traveled on this section, so that's why I'm taking this example. So on this track or in this section, you know that Shivaji to Akurdi station, there are two railway tracks. So on these two railway tracks, one is for up and one is for down direction, and you have a lot more of variety of trains. You have local trains, okay, the locals that run from Pune to Lonavala. You have express trains. You also have Durontos and Shatabdis on this route. Then you might have also seen sometimes the cargo trains. Okay, so the slow moving trains which carry a huge load. So all these trains, they use these two railway tracks. But again, speed of each train is different. Local trains, it traverses with a different speed. Express trains, it have more speed. Duronto Shatabdi, it has the highest speed in that section. Cargo trains, they are the slowest in this section. So what I will be doing is I will be first finding out that in my section, in this section, Shivajinagar to Akurdi, how many trains are moving or how many trains are passing this section or using this section, and what is their maximum speed. So if I find out, suppose Duronto is moving with a speed of 100 kmph, say, okay, Duronto and Shatabdi. So I'll see whether it is greater than 50 or less than 50. So it is greater than 50, the maximum speed. So I'll be finding out the equilibrium speed, which is nothing but 3/4 of the maximum value. Okay. So amongst your train fleet, whichever train is having the maximum speed for this section, Shivajinagar Akurdi, so that I'll be finding out, that will be Vmax. Now in this case, this is my Vmax. Excuse me. Okay, so 3/4 is your 3/4 of your Vmax. That is 3/4 is 0.75 into Vmax. In this case, if we are thinking of 100, so it will come out to be 75 kmph. 75 kmph, the A value. Okay, and B value is safe speed on curves. Now this is something that we'll be covering in tomorrow's lecture, so you'll be getting to know this value tomorrow as well. Okay, so for now, remember that two speeds you have to calculate, A and B. So A is calculated by 3/4 Vmax, that comes out to be 75 kmph in this case, and B by safe speed on curve formula, that will be seen tomorrow. And then the minimum of these two will be considering as equilibrium speed, and for that speed we will use that speed in this formula of superrelation, and then you will be finding out the superrelation, and that superrelation that you will be finding out, that will be the equilibrium Cant. Okay, so that's how you reach at the equilibrium Cant. So you first find out the equilibrium speed, then you substitute that value in this formula, and then you find out the equilibrium Cant. Okay, now similarly, if your section, if I change the section, if I take the Lonavala Karjat section that we had seen a few lectures back. Now Lonavala Karjat section, if you see, all these trains that I mentioned here, the except local doesn't go from Lonavala to Karjat. So I guess there is only express then Shatabdi, and then you have a cargo train. So all these three trains, though they have a different speed, but now in this case, we all know that this section is a hilly section. So automatically they will be having less speed, because in hilly section you have gradient and you have horizontal curves. So your speed has to be less. So maybe the Shatabdi, which was giving here the speed of 100 kmph. So in this section, it moves only with the speed of 45 kmph, suppose. Okay, and that is the maximum speed that your section is allowing for all the type of trains. Then it falls under this category, that broad gauge, meter gauge, and the maximum speed is less than 50 kmph. Then the equilibrium speed will be either Vmax, which is 45 in this case, or again this safe speed on curve formula that we'll be seeing tomorrow. The minimum of these two will be the equilibrium speed. And third, they have given the category that for some railways or for some sections, you can also take the weighted average. Weighted average is nothing but the speed into number of trains. So suppose express trains on this Lonavala Karjat section, you have in a day, you have suppose 6 express trains passing, Shatabdi 3 Shatabdis, and cargoes again 5 cargoes. So this into the speeds of those trains, that will divided by the number of trains, that will give you the weighted average. So by this table, we find out the equilibrium speed, and then we find out the equilibrium Cant. Now there is something called Cant deficiency. Now this, if you have understood the equilibrium Cant, so you will be understanding this Cant deficiency. So just to revise the equilibrium Cant, what it is that you have different trains with different speeds. Okay, T1, T2, T3, and so on. You have different trains with different speeds. Okay, so you cannot provide different superrelations for each of the trains. So what you do is you find out the equilibrium speed for all these trains in your section, and then using that equilibrium speed, you will find out the equilibrium Cant. Okay, so that equilibrium Cant will be nothing but again a superrelation, but with some different value, which is not directly the value that you get if you input these speed values. Okay, so that is equilibrium Cant. Now what is Cant deficiency? That when you provide a equilibrium Cant, so it is based on the speed of the average speed, or the 3/4 max, or whatever is the formula from speed of curve. Okay, but that Cant, it is less for high speed trains. For high speed trains, we have seen that more the speed, if the speed is more, then you have a greater value of your superrelation, and if you have less speed, so you have less value of your superrelation. Okay. Now we'll take this example itself for understanding the Cant deficiency and all. So Cant deficiency, what I am talking about is that suppose 60 kmph, it comes out to be your equilibrium speed. Okay, by all the formulas and all the calculations, so this comes out to be our equilibrium speed. So I'll use this to find out the superrelation, and my equilibrium Cant, it has come out to be this 14.17 centimeters. So this is the superrelation that I will be providing to my track. But if suppose a high speed train, a Shatabdi, is using this track, so what superrelation it is needing is 39 centimeter. This is centimeter. So it is needing 39 centimeter superrelation, but we are providing only 14.17 centimeter superrelation. So there is some deficiency. Okay, if you calculate the deficiency, comes out to be 0.295. Okay, 15 25. Yeah, 25.20 centimeter. We are providing less super elevation. Okay, so that much difference, which is that much value that is less super elevation that we are providing, that is nothing but the Cant deficiency. Okay, so Cant deficiency comes into picture if you are having high speed trains on your track and you have provided the super elevation according to equilibrium Cant. So again, we can't do much in that, but what we can do is we can restrict on this deficiency, that how much deficient your Cant can be. Okay, grammatically it sounds very awful that how much deficient your Cant can be, but that Cant is different. This Cant is different. So in Indian Railways, again, the limits are specified, that if you are having a broad gauge and if your speed of train is up to 100 kmph, so this much deficiency is allowed. Okay, that 7.6 centimeter difference is allowed, but greater than this you can't have Cant deficiency. In that case you need to revise your equilibrium speeds. Okay, and for higher greater than 100 kmph, so this is generally for Shatabdis and the new trains that have been introduced. So for that your Cant deficiency, they have eased it to 10 centimeter. Okay, and then greater than that, again it is not allowed. You have to revise your equilibrium speed. So that goes for the meter gauge and narrow gauge as well. Now for meter gauge, narrow gauge, you can see they have not specified the values for trains greater than 100 kmph speed, because the reason is generally greater than 100 kmph speed trains or high speed trains, they traverse only on the broad gauges, very rarely, or no, they don't even travel on meter gauge and narrow gauge. Okay, and this Cant deficiency, we have to put a limit on this due to these two reasons, that if we don't provide a limit on it and we allow the deficiency to be as high as possible, as in this case we are getting a deficiency of 25 centimeter. I hope my calculation is correct. Okay, so this much is the deficiency. So in this much deficiency, what can happen is the passengers, they experience a greater discomfort when the train travels through a curve. So you get a sway, a sideward jerk to the passengers, and a lot of discomfort is felt. Okay, this you might have observed also, that however sophisticated the train may be, but if it is traveling on some curve, you experience a bit of discomfort for high speed trains. The reason is this Cant deficiency, that the section has been designed in such a way that it will be having a equilibrium Cant, but your express train is going by a higher speed, so it will be you will be experiencing a discomfort. So this limit is kept so that this discomfort is as less as possible. And also, if we don't keep this limit, then there are chances of overturning. So if I tell you to choose between these two, that you prefer your train to overturn, or if you will prefer to give discomfort to passengers, obviously this is what you will choose. So that's why we don't keep the deficiency as high as that 25 centimeters. So that will result in this overturn, and we don't want it. So we keep some value of Cant deficiency that will cause a minimum discomfort. And also, if your Cant deficiency is very high, so it will imbalance your forces which are acting on your rails, and then your outer rail has to be provided with some extra fastening and fittings so that it can take the lateral pressure. So this is the Cant deficiency. Now, as we have seen the Cant deficiency, the next thing that is comes into picture is Cant excess. Now again, Cant excess is what? In this, what we saw for high speed trains, you have Cant deficiency. So similarly, if you have a low speed train, so here we have a low speed train of 40 kmph, and it is required, it is needing only 6.2 centimeter of super elevation. but we have provided super elevation of 14 centimeter. So we have gone excess by almost 8 centimeter. Okay, almost 8 centimeter. I am not finding out accurately. So this excess which comes in play for a slow moving train, that excess is known as Cant excess. Okay, so again the theory I have just written here, that equilibrium Cant, it is provided on basis of average speed, but this equilibrium Cant is in excess for low speed trains, so that excess is nothing but Cant excess. And the last terminology in this Cant series, it is the negative Cant. Now what is negative Cant? If on the right side, if you see, there is a condition that you have curved track. Okay, but that curved track is, it's again branching out. So this P, AP and BQ, they are the main line or the main track, and from there, from this AB point, there is a branch which is coming out, which is going, and it might be going to the station yard, suppose. Okay, so this goes to the station yard. So now on this, if you just logically place the superelevation concept, that whatever is the turn, so the outer rail will be having the more elevation than the inner rail. So if you divide it into points A, B, P, Q, so this A and P, they are the inner rail because the train is taking a left turn. So the level of A will be or should be less than the level of B, because this outer rail BQ, this is the rail that will be providing the super elevation. Okay, so for a main track, this should be the condition, but these same points are also the points for the branch line, and our branch line is taking a right turn. So for this branch line, your A should be at a higher elevation than your B point. Okay, now here comes the contradiction, that these two are the same points, A and B. They both are the same points, but one of the track, it is calling for a different elevation in your rails, and other track is calling for a different elevation. So in that case, what we can do is, we can't provide both at the same time, because that will practically not be possible to provide or satisfy both these conditions. So what we do is, we keep in mind the main line, okay, and we ignore the branch line. So in this case, what we will go for is, we will go for this condition, that BQ rail, it will be having more elevation than your AP rail. But in that case, what we are doing is, we are hampering the concept of superelevation for branch line. So there you need to drastically reduce your speed. Okay, so that's why the formula of superelevation was so important, that E is equal to GV square upon 127 R. So whenever you come across such conditions that you face a dilemma, that what superelevation needs to be provided, simply there the speed is reduced. So if speed is reduced, then you require less superelevation, and then your branch line can be, or the train which is going to the station yard, its speed will be less, and then it will take a turn. So many of times you will be seeing this also, that your express train, when it approaches a platform, so it is having, or it reduces its speed drastically. So one of the reason for that is this negative superelevation, because when you approach a major junction, there are a lot of branches which are coming out from your single track. So many of the branches, they take a turn also. So that's why the superelevation, negative superelevation comes into picture, and that's why the speeds are reduced. Okay, so this negative superelevation is nothing but when we provide this, that rail BQ is at a higher level than rail AP, so that becomes a negative superelevation for this branch line. Okay, the superelevation will be positive for the main line, but for branch line it will be Negative because on branch line we want the rail A to be at a higher elevation, but we are providing B rail at a higher elevation. Okay, so this will be at a higher elevation, this will be lower, so that will be a negative super elevation for your branch line. So this is all for today. So what we have covered is the concept of equilibrium speed. Then we saw the equilibrium Cant, and then the Cant deficiency, Cant excess, and the negative Cant. In tomorrow's lecture, we'll be covering this, the speed on curves that will be required on this equilibrium speed table. So you can find out this B value, and then you will be able to know that actually what comes out to be the equilibrium Cant.